Smorgasbord Radio.
Well, hello there. This is the Smorgasbord Radio Show. And I don't even know what episode we're on. It's been so many months now. I think it's 177. And we are trying to get back into the swing of things again. With me here is my good friend, Jerry Malauskas.
Hello.
Hi, Jerry.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
This is going to be like verbal ping pong. How you doing? How you doing? No,
how you doing? Makes for fantastic radio.
That's right. Nothing like small talk.
That's right.
A more detailed answer to that question would be is I've had my ups and downs. A little concerned about the future, but I'm also hopeful.
Sure. I'm just getting comfortable here in our lounge.
Yeah, that's right.
And this music kind of sounds like Last Call, actually. It wasn't necessarily the mood I was going for to open the show, but let's just stick with it, because that might be the mood we need.
Yeah, could very well be. Could very well be.
Oh, first of all, and I have a good way to start this out. Just
with actual alcohol?
Well, sort of. Not exactly, though. Can you hand me a glass, please? That's okay.
Which one?
I'll take this. I'll take the Penrose.
Yeah. Well, the other one had something in it, so I didn't want to grab that one.
Well, you could read what I'm drinking here.
Gold Rush?
No, read the whole label.
Samuel Adams Gold Rush. I can't
keep reading.
Oh, jeez. Oh, sorry. Non-alcoholic. Well, I could go for that.
There you go.
Well, unfortunately, I have water in mine.
Now, this is a complete 180 from some of our other shows where we had the whiskey pouring.
I need the last one. I definitely need the whiskey pouring or the Dave tribute. I needed that.
Yeah,
I definitely need to take an edge off. Let me save some of that though, because I want to see how that. Or give me one. I'd be up for it.
I've also got a dark one, but I got a dark peanut butter one. That's a non-alcoholic. But yeah, here you go. A Gold Rush. This is Sam Adams, and which I'm a big Sam Adams fan. And the fact that they came up with, I think they've got 2 different non-alcoholic beers now.
Well, they were one of the original American brews that was actually imported into Germany because their standards of purity were up to German standards.
That's right.
Sam Adams.
That's right.
With the Reinheitsgebot. Yeah, you have to say it that way. You can't say it any other way. It's got to have that Prussian authoritative,
Yeah.
Reinheitsgebot.
Well, that's perfect. And this is sort of like our Oktoberfest. Normally we would do our Oktoberfest episode right about this time.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it's taking a little bit of a different turn this year for a few reasons, actually. It's tough to get this thing going again.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a real speed bump in the road, wouldn't you say?
With Dave's passing?
Yeah.
That's a major one.
It took a lot of wind out of me.
Well, like I said, it's one of those things when you do lose a good friend, one of my best friends, the other one being in the room right now.
Oh, thank you.
I was talking about me, but my best friend. No, yes, my other best friend.
Yeah.
It's well, at the risk of sounding a little hyperbolic, it's kind of like half your life has been kind of pulled away from you. The things that had been kind of a staple, they're gone now, and they won't come back. Dave and I used to just have a lot of great conversations together and hang out and just philosophize about life and stuff like that. So it was that aspect, that joy that I had in my life, that's kind of gone. I mean, yes, I have it with Chris too, but the way Dave is one way, you're a different way, and you just can't replace that. You just can't replace that. So yeah, that was a speed bump, but I think we're going to get over it.
It was a gut punch for sure. And it takes a little bit of time because, like you said, you lose a part of yourself. So how do you then figure out how to go forward with that piece gone? I mean, life has to go on.
Right.
But it's different. And it will always be different from this point forward. And whether you've lost a parent or any aspect of your life that you have to go forward, it's...
When you've lost one of your anchors, you end up feeling unmoored. You end up feeling you're a bit adrift, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you don't... I mean, it's one of those things, I think, that's kind of part of the human condition that, we dread it when it happens. But somehow there's something... Well, usually, not everybody. Some people don't navigate it, and they go down very deeply. But... most of us find that inner strength, and we do find a way of kind of getting ourselves kind of back in course in life. I mean, for me, losing Dave is more, some people, like, they'd be very weepy and they'd cry a lot. And for me, it's like I'd be going through my life and then I'd have a thought, what would Dave think about this? Or, oh, Dave and I used to, and you get that kind of like click back in your memory. And it's, for me, it's not like I start bawling or anything, but it's just more like I get this kind of feeling of melancholy mixed with nostalgia that just kind of makes you very somber. It's very somber.
Yeah.
And reflective.
Well,
but it's what we deal with. It's what we deal with as human beings in life.
And I don't know if we talked about this on the last episode that you and I were on, because I did another one since you were here, because I needed to continue that one. But I don't know if we talked about this, but I think when you gave me the news, thank you. Should have given the audience a 5-second warning on that one. It hurt my ears.
Sorry. I didn't think it was that loud. I'm sorry, dude.
Popping open a cold one. When you gave me that news, I mean, it wasn't a complete surprise, but it was that call I didn't want to ever get.
Same here.
And even though it was, I wouldn't say expected, it just felt like it was coming, just based on how things were going over the past year.
Yeah.
But when it actually happened, it took me back. And I had one good emotional breakdown then. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if, obviously it was very touching as we were doing the show, and there were some moments there that I think we were both losing a little bit there.
Yeah,
but as far as a good pouring out cry, it happened pretty much once. Mm. And then I collected myself and realized at that point that things had to be different. We're going to be different. Mm-hmm. So, and sort of what I wanted to reflect on a little bit is, this year, it's like 3/4 over, and True. I think it's been a crappy year. I mean, I had, in the midst of all this with Dave, I had my own health challenges.
That's saying, by the way, saying a lot, because we've had 2020, 2021, and 2023.
It's been a crappy decade, actually.
So far,
ever since 2020. When my dad passed away at end of 2019, and that was sort of like
a foreshadowing, almost, in a way.
It was like my 9/11 in my life. It's like, okay, now my life is going to be different from this point forward. And sure enough, everything has since changed it. But it seems like there was a period of time where everything was kind of stable. It's like, okay, my family members are still with me, and, my job is with me. I had stability and all of a sudden, man, one thing happens and like your axis is shifted.
Well, especially, and that says something about the power that one particular individual can have on your life. I mean, and you may know a fair amount of people in your life, and and many of them have certain levels of influence. But if one of them, but certain people, if one of them goes, I mean, there's certain people. It's kind of like, oh, that's kind of a shame. It's unfortunate news, and you don't think a lot about it. You don't like. It's not like you're indifferent to the person, but it just, their passing doesn't necessarily redo the chessboard,
Yeah.
Whereas with something when your dad passed, it does. The same thing happened when my dad passed. You're in a different paradigm. You're a different scenario. The way you, especially for me, because I had to deal with my dad's estate, and I believe you had to do a fair amount of that yourself.
Yeah, although it was pretty clean. He had a trust, and it was like everything was kind of spelled out.
Good for you. I wish I had. I wished I had. I couldn't even find my dad's will because my dad was a hoarder, and so he basically everything was just. I actually did find the will years and years later, and then I read it, and it was kind of pretty much
how you carried it out.
Yeah, I carried it out. Yeah, I was the executor, and I carried it out.
Get rid of all this trash.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah, and
you had to deal with all that. I didn't have to go through my dad's because he was married, and so everything is hers.
Yeah,
I didn't have to go through a house and try to figure out what am I going to do with all this crap.
Yeah,
and then I did have to sell the condo that was left to me, but that was actually pretty easy. The guy who was renting it just wanted to buy it. He's like, "Hey, man, can I have first
dibs?"
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And didn't have to, negotiate a price with him. I didn't have to pay a realtor. Took it off my hands within a month. So
lucky you, as usual. It's always lucky with you.
Sorry, you were. I cut you off. I think maybe.
Well, no. It's that those people.
Oh yeah, your dad. Your will.
Or
carried it out as he had wanted it.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. So, but the thing is, I had to do it blind because we couldn't find his will, and he had not set himself up with a burial plot or anything. I had to do all that on the fly.
Yeah.
Basically within a week.
Yeah.
With almost no help from the extended family.
Where did you find the will?
It was actually in a big pile of papers that I took with me that I went through and kind of fine-tooth comb because actually a lot of the stuff I just kind of wanted to get rid of because there was just I'm not going to go and carry like personal effect papers of my dad from place to place forever. So I was going through and seeing what, I needed a photocopy or whatever. And what I could just have shredded. And when I did, I found the will. Oh, here's where it is. But that was like almost 10 years after the fact. Well over 10 years, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a very strange thing. And then to see it and everything. And also just with... The thing is, you have the devastating thing happen to you, but you still have to deal with all these mundane... It's like... I just want to go somewhere and go into like the fortress of solitude and recharge and try to, no, he's like, no, you got to do this. You got to take care of that. There's this legal thing here.
Yeah.
And
you're trying to live your life and you're trying to fit all this in.
Yeah. And the thing is, there's nobody there to say, it's like, hold your hand. No. Suck it up and take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. For you, it was a little bit easier. Good for you. But for me, especially with my dad passing, it was a mess because he just kind of let everything just whatever go, and I think that made it a little extra level of devastation to deal with, because not only dealing with the devastation of losing someone so close to you in your life, but then having to clean up their mess that they didn't take care of in their lifetime.
Right.
So I'm hoping with me, you can just take all my stuff. You're going to be the executor anyway.
Oh, great.
Well, I don't see anybody else. I'm not going to leave it to. I was thinking about leaving it to maybe Dave, but obviously that can't do that anymore. But if I execute and you outlive me, you'll be. Get rid of that and get rid of that.
There's not much to get rid of.
No,
you're a minimalist.
I know. That's another reason. So when I pass, for me, you can just cremate me and then toss my ashes in the forest somewhere, I'd be happy. As long as I'm back with nature. I came from nature, I'll go back to nature.
Well, I own all of your...
You can be my archivist.
Your archives. I'll open up the official Jerome Malowska's museum.
No, thank you. That no one will want to visit.
I'll open it up in Latvia.
Oh, there you go. Latvia.
No.
Lithuania.
Sorry.
God.
I get that wrong. Oh,
well, at least you didn't say Belarus or something like that.
Sorry.
Belarus. I am Belarus.
Anyway, what I was saying was, so when all this was going on with Dave, I had my own health issues that I was dealing with. So when I got the news of Dave, it really didn't help because I was already over the edge.
It was the blood pressure stuff, right?
Well, secondarily.
Oh, okay.
It was actually a heart rate issue.
Oh, yeah.
I went in for my physical, and my doctor was like, your pulse is kind of up there. It was like around 100. I'm like, well, I am kind of nervous being in a doctor's office, even though I've been with this doctor for like 25 years, so I shouldn't be nervous around him. He's like, you just keep an eye on that. Well, I did keep an eye on it, and it was steadily around 100 at, sedentary. So I was like, you're supposed to be in the, it says 60 to 100 is normal, but when you get to 100, that's kind of like on the upper end of normal, and it shouldn't always be there. And the healthier you are, it should be closer
like 80 maybe or something.
Yeah, that's a target in there. And athletes get it down.
Really low, yeah.
Really low. So I kept an eye on it, and I was out at the movie theater in April, beginning of April. And I was sitting there, and I felt really warm, like this flush of warmth just coming up to my head. And I just started to look down at because I got the Apple Watch, and I was checking my pulse, and it was like 110. And then I'm watching it, it jumps to 117, 125, 135, and I'm like, I looked up Kim and I say, I got to go out to the lobby because I am not feeling good. And by the time I got out to the lobby, it was at like 168, and I'm freaking out. I'm like, I don't know how high this is going to go. Is my heart going to explode all over the popcorn stand here?
Jeez.
So I called 911. I'm at the lobby of the movie theater, and they got there within like 5 minutes. And I texted Kim. I said, I'm sitting out here on the bench. I'm going to the hospital. So she immediately comes down, sits down next to me, puts her arm around me, and my heart rate just starts to decline like into the 90s. And about that time, the ambulance shows up with the stretcher, and they're looking for a guy who's
having a grabber.
Yeah. And I said, that was me.
But the power, the miraculous power of my wife.
Yeah. So I said, would you want to go to the hospital? I said, yeah, take me to the hospital. And it was a smart choice. Went there. They did all the tests. They said, I'm not seeing anything here. So they released me a couple hours later. Then about 3-4 weeks later, ironically, coincidentally, on the day that Dave passed away, April 26th, I was sitting on my couch here watching another movie. And by the way, these movies aren't like The Exorcist or the Exorcist. It was like really calm movies and feel-good rom-coms or whatever.
Oh, like a Hallmark movie?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sitting there watching that. And the thing started to happen again. It was climbing and climbing and climbing. And then it gets to like 150, and then it starts to come down. Like, I freaked out. And I didn't go to the hospital, but I called my doctor, and he immediately phoned in a prescription. Oh, right. I should probably say that I had some blood tests done after the first incident.
Remember you telling me about that.
And one of the tests was a 24-hour urine test. And I had to collect my sample for 24 hours straight. So I had this jug. And on the 26th of April, I brought that back to the lab to have processed. So now they said it was going to take a week to 2 weeks to get those results. So the very night that I turned my sample in, I get this incident happen again. And the reason when they were taking this, he was checking for the adrenal glands, because he said there's a rare case of you could have a tumor, usually non-cancerous, on the kidney.
It's not a tumor.
Not a tumor. That could trigger adrenaline. And that might cause the surges that you're seeing.
Right.
So when I called that night and it was happening, he put me on this, it was a alpha blocker. It wasn't a beta blocker. It was an alpha blocker, and it was supposed to control blood pressure, because my blood pressure was going up at the same time.
Well, obviously. Well, that would kind of suck, because that would keep you from being an alpha male that you usually are.
I know. It's going to kill my alpha drive.
I know.
So then about a week later, I'm still waiting for my result. Every day it's just another torturous day, because my heart rate is still hovering around 100. Now it's stable, but it's still high. And then you gave me the news about Dave, and I was just, I can't handle the stress anymore. I was just so maxed out on stress. Long story short, and I know this is going on, I don't want to make this into an old man telling his health stories.
That's right.
I got the results back. Everything was negative with that, which was a huge relief, because I was reading, when you're sick, do not go on the internet and look up your problems, because you will go down a rabbit hole that will scare you.
and all being, I have cancer.
I know.
Everyone ends up being, I have cancer.
Yeah, it all points to cancer.
Or something like that.
Because I was reading about this adrenal tumor thing, and they said if you have this, it's extremely rare, and therefore there are only a few surgeons that know how to deal with this. You have to go to the Mayo Clinic. I'm like, oh my gosh, please let this be this. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have a surgery this summer. I'm just going nuts out of my mind. Where was I going with this? So I got the results back negative. So my doctor says, okay, because it's that, you need to go to a cardiologist, get it all cleared away. So meanwhile, I've been poked and prodded and everything. Oh, and I ended up back in ER again, a second time. A couple days after you told me about Dave, I was back in the hospital.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Because it was doing the thing again, and I just wanted to get in there. Now, six months later, I don't know what caused it, but I am on metoprolol, which is supposed to lower heart rate. But here is the missing ingredient. I had another test. I said, Doc, can you test me for my hormones? Because what's the warm flushing surge that I'm getting? Ran all these estrogen tests on me.
So you're getting hot flashes?
I thought, is this a hot flash?
You're going through menopause.
But he says, I'm going to check your omega-3 levels. Bingo. My omega-3 was next to zero.
Oh.
I mean, dangerously low. Which, and I'm reading all about, has so much to do with the cardiovascular system, including heart rate, blood pressure, recovery rate from exercise. So my doctor has put me on
some omega,
3 grams of fish oil a day. Going to get tested again in November. It seems to might be the missing link here. So I'm on fish oil.
And you know what? Better supplement than the pharmaceutical, as far as I'm concerned.
I would love to get off this metoprolol, because even though I'm only on the bare minimum of it, 25 milligrams, I think it is, it's something I don't want to be on. So I'm kind of taking the natural. So why did I bring all this up? Because I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer. I haven't cut out completely, but I have all these metrics from my watch, and you can see the time leading up to April and May, my heart rate and everything was in the wrong direction. And then all of this happened. I started on the medication and started changing my diet, stopped drinking, and everything is on a decline. The resting heart rate, the blood pressure, it's just amazing. So I think my days of doing the shots and all that has come to an end. If I have one beer, that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, bodies have certain. Not all bodies are equally. I mean, there are people that literally will have that shot of liquor every day to the day that they die at 110, and it's, hey, my longevity is for every day I have a big shot of whiskey.
I'm not going to stop this now.
Yeah. So but I'm saying, and some people have that because they have the kind of they've inherited the genetics from the long line of their ancestors. They gave them these sort of abilities, if you will, to handle certain stresses and things. And then other people inherit stuff from their ancestors, and they find out they're a bunch of weaklings and they can't handle garbage. They can't handle anything. So they got to be extra careful in life. See, for my thing, I know logically that I come from I have good genes from my family, because my grandma just died this year also at age 101. I was 5 generations when I was born. My great-great-grandfather died like when he was almost 100. Everybody's like almost 100 when they die. I didn't want to just say, well, I'm going to live to 100, so here, I'm going to keep drinking and doing all this stuff. I was still freaking out like, hey, man, I got to change something. Something's going to happen to me. Well, you're just being intelligent.
Yeah. So don't want to take it for granted.
Don't take anything. You don't take anything you get for granted that nature has given you.
That's right.
Your ancestors. Well, actually, be disrespectful to your ancestors if you abuse the DNA they gave you.
That's right.
So I would, I know, and I know my own experiences of like, just like I was out to visit you, and we were going to do like a little bike ride and everything. And it turned out I got yesterday, I got this spasm that ran,
oh man,
like in the base of my spine to my buttock, and it was just like, and it made me stumble because that's how intense the pain was. And it's like, oh, what the heck did that? And that stuff happens on occasion. As you get older, the things like that would have freaked me out if I was 30 and it happened. I'd be freaking, oh my God, I got a tumor or something. But now I realize
it's old age.
It's old age. Like the other thing is, I'm pointing to my friend, a big bruise on my left forearm underneath the bottom part of my forearm. And for the life of me, I don't know where it came from. And that's what happens when you get old. You get bruises, you get cuts, and you're like,
it's like I pulled my back. Oh, I must have slept funny.
Exactly. Because it's like, you look back at it. I didn't jump off a trampoline or anything. What's good? And
I sneezed funny, or I just picked up something wrong.
You breathed in funny. It's like oh.
So anyway, I'm back to the health club now. I'm doing.
That's the thing. But speaking of going to tie it in with Dave, because knowing that the health problems that Dave had and all that, it just makes you that much more extra aware, not only of your mortality, obviously, but also makes you aware of your fragility in regards to, the things you could do when you were younger. You just can't do them now anymore. Your body becomes more sensitive to the things that your body could shake off. It doesn't shake them off anymore like that, which is, I guess, tiny.
Yeah.
So speaking of fragility,
well, I've had some lifestyle changes, cutting back on the alcohol for sure.
By the way, I just wanted to say that this Sam Adams non-alcoholic, very good.
You like it?
It tastes like a real classic German lager sort of
I know,
thing.
and it feels like you're having one and you're socializing, and you don't.
And it's got like 1/10 of 1% or something of alcohol.
Yeah, I mean it's like, and the ultimate fake is you have like one real one. And then you cut over to these, and you still have kind of a buzz from the first one. I feel like I'm having
kind of keeps it going on. Yeah,
exactly. So the drinking, the exercise, and my supplement program. I know people are hanging on the edge of their seat. They want to know, hey, Chris, what are you taking as supplements? So I got my immunity trio, which is the vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc.
Yeah,
I started that during the COVID days because I'm like, hey,
I was doing that. I was doing massive D3.
Yep, D3.
And I took some other stuff too. I took some called NAC.
Yep.
Because that is a good immune booster. I also took some. For a while, I was doing colloidal silver. That's a little controversial. I actually moved away from that to a mushroom extract blend that had a bunch of immune fighting mushroom properties. I like reishi and maitake and whatever. So stuff like that. But like you said, the other ones that definitely had the vitamin C in there as well. Very important.
Yeah, I'm doing a prebiotic and probiotic combination. That was helps with the gut. I am doing the fish oil.
By the way, I think that probably also helps with immunity as well.
Yes,
the pre and probiotic.
Yeah. Now normally it says 1 gram of fish oil or per day maximum, because there was a study that talked about having too much of it led to AFib. But my doctor said that was a flawed study for many reasons, one of which being they never even measured how much omega-3 the people had going into the study. So there could have been people who were like me on the low end, and they were fine because they had enough. But so many people had way too much, and they were adding to it and putting them in a different category. So anyway, my doctor said a DO. So he's more of a diet, more of the holistic nutritional.
Okay. So he's an osteopath, huh? Doctor of osteo.
Oh yeah, that's what DO stands for.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's osteopathy, whatever. But more like you said, more of the naturalistic approach. So obviously he has training in things like diet and supplementation. Yeah. That's important because there's so many MDs out there.
Just pushes it on you.
They know every kind of pharmaceutical they can pop, they throw it at you, but they don't know anything else. They don't know about
the underlying cause and treating to that rather than just jump into the medicine. But 25 years I've been with him, and not once has he ever pushed any meds on me. other than now for this particular thing because we tested everything else. Anyway, so I got that, and then one more thing. Oh, I've been adding some beetroot. What do you call it? Powder.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing a similar thing, except that mine is beetroot crystal, which means they make the beet juice and then they freeze dry it into crystals.
Okay, and how do you take that?
Like Folgers, freeze dried Folgers.
You sprinkle that on?
No. You just
dissolve it in water.
No, you dissolve it in water, and I gotta say, it also gives you quite a pep because the sugar of the beets is pretty intense too.
Yeah.
So you're gonna get kind of that. A little bit of a sugar high, but almost like you don't even need to have coffee in the morning because I think it's like, hey.
Sure.
And I also take a just as an extra supplement to help with because I can be fairly lethargic, especially in the morning. This pre-workout sort of thing. And it does have a little bit of caffeine in it, and it has some other supplements in it as well. And that definitely gives you. And then I actually put both of them together, and I really feel the energy of that.
Yeah.
So that is really helpful. But yeah, we're definitely like, Aaron, you take that supplement and it goes with that medication.
I think I put an episode together a year or two ago about when I was doing sort of like a best of compilation thing. I pulled together all of our old man health stories and I put it in one episode. It's like, now we can do a bonus content for that. Oh man, it's going to get worse.
Well, remember in the days when you were younger, you would go to like Wendy's and get like the double cheeseburger and the fries.
Yeah.
You throw, and then of course you wad it all up and you throw it into the passenger side of your car.
Oh, I know.
By the end of the week, it's just this pile.
It's everything that you ate that week you could see in your wrappers in your back seat.
Oh my god, it was horrible.
It was all those microwavable hamburgers and
all that stuff. Especially because back then it's like what you could afford because we were all poor back then.
Yeah,
and back then, believe it or not, kids, fast food back then in the 80s, 90s. Was actually cheap. You could actually afford it.
Yeah.
Unlike now.
I was watching a video of ours, the McDonald's, Rock and Roll McDonald's drive-through episode, where we just did in Chicago, that Rock and Roll McDonald's.
Oh, is that the place where R. Kelly would pick up his dates?
Possibly, yeah.
That's what I heard.
And I was listening to some of the prices that we were making fun of back then, because the downtown Chicago one, and it was a rock and roll theme. It was a novelty to begin with. So all the prices,
trap.
It was like $5 hamburgers or McMacs or whatever. I'm like, those are our normal prices for now.
Yeah. Well, you heard about the $18 Big Mac meal, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's probably out in California somewhere.
Yeah, keep pushing for the $15 minimum wage. Actually,
15.
Well, yeah, that was
a couple of years ago, I think. It's 20 now.
Yeah, I know, it's 20 now.
And
now they're kiosks. You go in there and you punch your order in a kiosk because there's nobody to take your order. It's like, oh, well.
Well, again, exactly, but then, I really, and I don't want to get too topical on this, but you look at somebody like Newsom who pushes this stuff. Is this guy like mentally deranged, or is somebody telling him to do it and he's just doing it? I mean, why? Because if you're just looking at this from an economic standpoint, and if you're looking at it makes absolutely no sense, but you push on with it anyway.
Especially if you see the results of your actions, because you're around long enough to see the consequences and you don't reverse course.
Not only that, I think he's patting himself on the back, and I'm thinking, you just devastated. There's people losing jobs and everything over this nonsense that you're doing, which you said was going to help workers, and it's not. And you're like, oh, I think I did a great thing still.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm for the way you want to roll this out for the rest of the country. This is like your little test market. Okay?
Exactly.
Oh, this was a success. On what measures was this a success?
Because we were able to push it and nobody pushed back, I guess, is basically how they look at the success thing. If they can get away with it, it's a success.
Yeah.
A success. That's kind of how I see it. But anyway.
So here's a radical idea. I was also toying around with this as I was, actually not just today, but just in the last few weeks. I think I hinted around this on a couple shows ago. I said, what should we do with the show going forward? And I said, David wanted us to continue. Yeah. But
I definitely think you would.
I'm having a hard time thinking about how the smorgasbord really will work. Even though Dave wasn't on the show every time, he was part of the puzzle. and I'm having a hard time visualizing me continuing with the Smorgasbord show, the brand, without Dave.
Are you thinking about renaming?
I'm thinking about repurposing this entire thing now. And I've got an idea. And it's solely around you in the equation.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's a simple idea. It's not too much in left field. It kind of spins off of the concept of Smorgasbord, but I was thinking of, and you could think about this episode as a pilot.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of like the Chris and Jerry Supper Club or something along the lines of that theme, where it's a socializing.
Well, there was a show. I'm sorry. You want to? I'm sorry.
No, I just want to. I'm thinking Supper Club. I'm thinking whether our names are in it or not. I don't know, but it would just be a natural step, because when I think of Smorgasbord, I think of a lot of work that goes into those shows.
That's true.
Because I have to pull together news stories
for Baba.
Baba is out there, and we got, figure out, okay, is Philip going to put out his new album? And then I got to figure out how to mix up enough topics. And after a while,
it's exhausting.
It's exhausting, and I'm getting older, and I don't want to give up the idea of radio and recordings and all that, but I'm thinking about going into this new genre, and it's sort of a spin-off. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know. I get what you're saying. And the thing is, I think there is, by the way, I did want to remember the thing I was going to say before.
Yeah.
There was going towards to what you wanted to call the show. There was this old movie from the 80s called My Dinner with Andre, because you were talking about Supper Club. So I'm thinking, My Dinner with Jerry.
Yes.
No, but
I'm having,
But yeah, I understand that. And the thing is, I think the conversational podcast format, I mean, look at what Tucker Carlson's doing with a lot of his podcasts. He's sitting down, having an interview, getting kind of in depth, and it's a very casual vibe, a very casual feel. It's not so, see, when you did the Smorgasbord, it was the idea also of like cavalcade of stars. In other words,
yes,
it was a production. It's like,
it was.
Oh, there's these movements. It's like there's a big symphony. There's these movements, the first movement, the second movement, the third, and all this sort of thing going on. And when you have the kind of concept of this, I was going to use a big word, but I decided not to. But this kind of parade of things. Basically, you're doing on every show, you the Baba segment, and then there'd be a segment on some wild news stories or whatever, and then there would be
Jeffrey Gleason Tech,
Philip Donald doing coming through and with another song or whatever, and these things were kind of part of the whole kind of flow. So each thing was like one went to the other, and sort of a comedy effect, entertainment effect that was kind of always up all the time.
Right.
So just keep them jumping. Now you're talking about kind of pulling that back and making it more personable, conversational.
Yeah.
Less structured.
Yeah.
A little more, more loosey-goosey. I think that's not a bad idea.
In a way, it's kind of what I was trying to do, and we did it for a while, and then we kind of got back into the long form, but I was trying to do those small bits, the bite-size shows where we would just pick up one thing and we're in and out and bam, bam. And those we were able to crank out a lot of episodes that way, but then slowly we started to get back into these 1 hour shows. Every one of our shows, and we're 177 now, and we're coming up on 15 years in January since I've been doing this. So it's not that many on an annual basis, but it's a lot of episodes in totality. Every one of those, none of them was I never phoned it in, I don't think. Mm-hmm. Every one of them really required a lot of prep.
Well, just think about all the
research.
The shows you did, the podcast shows you did that were old-time radio episodes.
Oh, yeah,
like
those are...
the radio dramas and
Sure.
such. And,
Yeah, that was even to the extreme of preparation because we had the sound effects and the timing and getting all the cast members in here and printing out all the scripts. I mean, that was a month-long, work on those things.
Yeah. But very listenable and very, very enjoyable, entertaining.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly how to do this, whether we just end these or have like one, final, hey, this is the last smorgasbord, or just keep it out there, never really end it. And if there is a theme or something that fits more in the smorgasbord mold, it becomes another episode. And that could be like 6 months before you hear something in that feed, or maybe this might be it. But we would have this separate podcast that we just kind of pick up where we are from here and just say, hey, this is a new era. Our history is still there, but we're something different now.
I kind of tend towards that. I think that's kind of the better strategy.
Yeah.
The better future outlook for the show, because you never, obviously if something comes up and it's like, this would make a great, Smorg style podcast, and you would do it, and you would say, well, we don't do that anymore, so that's never going to happen. You never say never to, and especially when you're talking about entertainment, you never say never. You always want to keep the creative juices and the creative options open. But if you feel, and I think that's the thing again about, speaking of the whole creativity thing, is that's a very inward journey sort of thing. So if you find, and especially things that happen in your life can kind of move you in a direction that a couple years before you wasn't even in your radar, but now you're there and you're saying, what do I do with this? And you've come up with an idea that's going to keep podcasting alive, but move away from what your original idea was. Because let's be honest, when you did the podcast, obviously that wasn't the high school radio show you did.
Right.
20 years, how many years? Was it 30 years before? Was it 20? Well, whatever.
25 years after we ended.
25, yeah.
Yeah, we started this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what you did 25 years earlier, I wasn't going to translate to what you were doing pre-recorded and putting on the internet.
Yeah.
So there's always the aspect of evolution in the creative process.
Well, exactly 40 years ago, we ended the high school radio show. It was like September. It was August 24th. 1984. So we're kind of 40 years from the end of the first iteration. And, I to be honest with you, I haven't even told Allie this yet. So, I may want to do a closing episode with her since we both kicked this off together in 2010.
Sure. I think that makes sense.
And then next time you come out here, maybe we kick off the official, first episode of the Supper Club or whatever. That's the working title. We'll figure it out. Got to come up with a... Maybe we can have AI help me out with the little artwork for the podcast. What is a supper club to you? What do you think of when you're a supper club?
Well, I always think about like the ones they had up in Wisconsin where they give you the Friday night fish fry.
That's right.
That's right there. And you get like you get your old fashioned or Tom Collins, and then you knock that back and have a nice big fish fry afterwards.
Yeah.
At a good supper club up there, like in Manitowoc or something. My apologies to people from Wisconsin. I know that was a terrible accent, but that's what I got.
But we're from Illinois, so
yeah, so we don't.
That's how they sound to us.
Yeah, and I'm sure we sound something like, and you do an accent.
Hey, over by here,
darn fibs. I won't tell you what FIB means, but you get the point. It's not family friendly. But I think a supper club. Well, to me, I almost would see how when I'd have conversations with Dave at a cafe, and we sit back with 2 cups of coffee, and we just kind of talk about things that would come up, especially things that happen in the world. Obviously, we had talked about a lot of current events, but we also talked about philosophy, spirituality.
Yeah, I could see that.
Run the gamut.
Yeah, that'd be kind of what I'm going for here.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not quite the same way, but it could definitely be a thing where you bring up, we could, obviously maybe you could think about some topics, and we would just kind of go with that, and we'd riff off of each topic and move to the next one or something like that.
Yeah.
And, I think that would be a good idea.
All right.
Because, I mean, yeah, we're just two people talking. But the thing is, sometimes it's a weird thing. People actually react to the interactions other people have with things. What I mean by that is I was on YouTube, and there's like a little like cottage industry of these YouTube channels where people are just reacting, either reacting to watching movies or reacting to listening to songs or whatever. They're just people. I don't know these people from Adam. Why am I like fascinated to find out how they react to this particular song or this particular video?
Yeah.
But you kind of do get drawn in because it's kind of that human connection sort of thing. So listening to this talk about these things, it's like for some people I would listen, it's like, whatever, they're just jabbering. Whatever. But other people say, yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that opinion. I hadn't thought of that approach. So
sure, yeah,
that would give. That's the thing about that communication between humans is that, and sometimes communication doesn't happen directly. Like we're talking to each other here. Sometimes the communication, we say some stuff, we do it, and then somebody listens to us, and then they get affected or have an inspiration, and maybe they bring that to their circle of friends or whatever. So that's another level of communication, another level of connection.
Right.
Did that make any sense?
Absolutely, it did.
Oh, good. Sometimes I think I go off on these riffs, and I'm like, am I making sense?
Yeah. Well, that time you did.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time, but
thanks for being a sounding board, because I wanted to kind of just talk that out, because that was the first time I've actually said it out loud, and so I didn't know if I was what I was going for, and it sounded like it did, because when you regurgitated it back to me.
Yeah. It just
hit
clicked.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when you do hear it coming from someone else, it is like you said, the sounding board thing is like, oh, okay. So I wasn't just off in my own little world. Somebody else got the idea as well and understood where I was coming from.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Exactly.
Not a voice in the wilderness. Yeah.
All right. Well, anything else? We got the election season coming up here, so we have a lot to talk about there. That could be its own episode, but
I think it has to be. I don't know. I guess it depends on what you wanted to talk. If you wanted to talk about any kind of current events.
Yeah.
Not this time around?
Not this time around. I think what we wanted to, this is more of a reflections episode, so I just want to kind of reflect on this year and kind of like where it's brought me and where I think it's going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have a good run of good years, but you're never guaranteed your entire life of good years. There's going to be some sucky years, maybe sometimes the entire sucky decade. You could have that. You could get that bad.
Yeah, we're on track for completing 4 of them already.
Yeah, 4 years. Hey, go for the record.
I got my 40th high school reunion next month.
Are you thinking of going?
Thinking about checking it out, just walking in, seeing, and then leaving. It's at the Loyal Order of Moose in downtown Downers Grove, just down the street from the old stomping grounds.
Oh, gosh.
I'll see if there's one guy from my class, Gary Schiavo. The last time I saw him at the reunion, he gives me his business card, and his number is 1-800-SPANK-ME. And it's like, okay, thanks, Gary. I don't know why I said that, because nobody knows who this guy is, but if you knew him, that would make sense. He was that kind of guy.
Not the classiest individual, is what you're basically saying.
I hope I see him again.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't have to actually go and do a class reunion to see another one of our compatriots that we both knew, Daryl Woltman.
Yes, Daryl will be there.
I'm saying I actually saw him a couple of years ago when there was an open mic that was Dave was there playing guitar, and he ended up showing up for some reason. And,
yeah.
By the way, he did. Even years later, he didn't look that much different.
I know.
Crazy.
His daughter was born like within 2 hours of Allie. So we got together. This was like right after we launched the podcast again, and he heard, "Hey, I'm glad to see you guys you're doing this again." And we caught up since high school we hadn't talked to each other, so 25, 26 years. And we got on the subject about, do you have kids? Yeah, I have a daughter. How old is she? I was like, well, back then 12 or whatever. And then we figured out that we were within 2 hours of each other. We got to get these girls together. We went out once. Yeah, and they were different kind of people.
No gelling.
Not really.
No,
You need something a little bit more than, hey, I was born
2 hours before you.
Yeah, that's kind of the novelty wears off after the first get together.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Speaking of birthdays, your next one is going to be a big one.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, what happened to you? How'd you get so old so quickly? I just knew you. Yeah, I knew you when you were 18. I took you to Burger King.
I still remember that. I won't say I kept the crown. I didn't, but yeah, that was. And as I remember, that was a pretty interesting day because you got to see my dad in his underwear.
I think I had my girlfriend with me in my car, and I drove into your driveway, and there's your dad like washing his car
in a boxer shorts. That's it, and nothing else.
Nothing else.
It's like, hey, why don't you warn me? Friends are coming over.
Yeah, because of course we had cell phones and stuff back then.
Right? We're on our way over. You have no, can't reach us.
Yeah, that's the thing. That was the thing, kids. Back then, you didn't know. You could you couldn't call ahead. You couldn't text. You couldn't do anything.
You're lost. You pulled over to a gas station. Back in the days when people actually gave you directions, they knew. Now, if you walk down the street, you go to 7-Eleven. Hey, tell me where the Meijer grocery store is.
I don't know.
And he's like, don't you have GPS? Because it's 7-Eleven. You got to, don't you have GPS?
Oh.
Really bad. But yeah, no, that's true. But then most people nowadays, they are literally on GPS the entire time because they're constantly looking at their phone.
Yeah.
So did you want to kind of wrap things up?
Yeah, we could wrap this thing up here. Yeah, not much else to say.
Yeah, just I think, what did somebody say? Watch this space.
Watch this space. Yeah. We will communicate at some point I need to take the in memoriam kind of page down on Dave, because it's like, okay, maybe I'll just let it ride out for the year. But when we launch the new show, we'll have some news on the website. You'll learn that way. Because I will not use this feed. If we start a new podcast, it'll be a clean feed, separate from this one.
Okay.
With its own domain and all that. And
wow, you're going to pay for 2 domains? Wow.
No, sorry, I don't think I'm going to build another website. I think we'll still use the Smorg Show website if we're going to have another tab in there, maybe just Supper Club and have the episodes there.
Yeah, that's in click to get that. It'd be a link.
It could be a link. Well, it could be one of 2 things. I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
But I'm sure you will.
One thing at a time. Yeah, this is just really the brainstorming phase. It could take a couple months for me to kind of figure out. But we'll start slow and see how it goes and see if we want to invest our time in it once it's off the ground.
Well, you won't really know until you try it.
Exactly.
It's always been the case.
It's sort of like the Baba podcast. We didn't create a separate website for it, but it is its own feed on iTunes, or not iTunes, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. No, I don't think he's on Spotify.
Did you say it was like the #1 Indian podcast in Saudi Arabia or something?
Yes.
It's all the Indians who live in Saudi Arabia. I'm going to be listening to Baba.
The #1 Hindu,
that's what it is.
Hindu podcast in Saudi Arabia.
Which is weird because they pretty much don't allow any other religions there. But
right, I know that. Oh, we love this here. India, I think it made the top 10, but then it quickly dropped off when they realized what it was all about.
We do not find this funny.
This is not funny.
You are making fun of us. Yeah, well, in one sense, I do understand it because India does get to be kind of the butt of a lot of people's jokes, and if you're Indian, you do get a little sensitive about it after a while. I don't think you ever do it to be, because actually you've actually brought a lot of interesting subjects about Indian culture, or topics about Indian culture. It was never just a thing of making fun. I learned things about
I
India.
did too. I did a lot of research, and just all the holidays and the traditions and the food. We did the salad bar, the buffet, learning about all the different foods, just even the customs of how to eat properly, and all that stuff was culturally rich.
I felt enriched.
You know, Baba, can you blame him for having that accent? He's been in Chicago for 40 years, so you kind of lose the authentic.
Yeah. You know.
I did run into one of my Indian friends, colleagues from my last job. He loved Baba. He said, "Oh, this guy's great." I said, "What does he sound like to you? Does he have an Indian accent?" He's like, "No." I said, "What is it? What kind of accent?" South African. Okay, whatever.
Well, there are Indians who live in South Africa, so
maybe. So go figure. I don't know where that came from.
Well, still, an Indian guy liked what you did.
He liked it. He
was not offended, so
he understood the humor.
Yeah, because he understood it was not. It was never really malicious. It was you had a character, and you're running with that character and seeing where that character, that person, if you will, is going, and what are the things they're going to be interested. What are they going to not? What are their perspectives? You gotta.
Yeah. Well, he said absolutely right. Those stories were absolutely true. All that kind of stuff did happen all the time. These monkeys creating havoc in the streets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. But there you go. So as long as ultimately you had an entertaining podcast and you didn't really offend anybody. You're ahead of the game.
Exactly. All right, Jerry. Thanks for coming out.
No problem.
And there we go. We almost cranked out another hour here.
I won't say this is last call. They're kind of jamming right now.
You're right. It's kind of picked up a little bit. We're going to go enjoy the music here, the band.
Yeah.
And so thanks for listening. We will be back in one form or another.
Soon.
And we'll keep you posted on the website or, another episode. But I was kind of hoping we were going to get to 200. I don't think we're going to make 200. We might not even make 180. But
this year? Yeah, no.
Well, we're certainly going to get 178. And we'll keep you posted. So anyway, thank you for listening. This is the Smorgasbord Radio Show for now. And Chris and Jerry signing off.
Bye.